Hello, 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 and welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Jameelah, and I'm a master manifester. I'm sure you are too. You're watching content like this. Anybody and everybody just don't sit and watch content like this. So I already know who the audience is, right? Especially if you stick around. The name of this channel is Manifesting Magic the Practical Way, because I do talk about a lot of practicalities when it comes to manifesting these amazing lives that we choose. I'm literally in the middle of thinking about a new title for my channel, and it's not because I think anything is wrong with the current title. I'm just not I'm evolving, and I think it's wonderful to be able to be on this channel and to share what I'm going through day by day with everybody else, and just to be in the space of evolving. And that is truly okay and kind of cool, you know what I mean? Because we're supposed to. I think some of the people that I know in my life, or people that I've known in the past, or anybody, what I found, the thing that made them not be able to grab onto those dreams that they wanted, or create something that they really wanted, often they were too afraid of change, whether it was changing something in themselves or changing something on the outside that had to shift, right? People really have a comfort when it comes to keeping things the same, right? So, nonetheless, what I'm talking about today is what intuition is and what intuition is not, right? I was just sitting in a really good meditation. Funny enough, I was right on the part where I was praying for my daughters, sending some positive energy out their way, just in general, because they go out in the world and I want them to be prepared for everything. And right after that, the other one texted me and said, I'm feeling better. And I was like, oh yeah, I forgot. She said she was feeling bad. But it's always something. She's like, oh, my head hurts. Oh, my neck hurts. Oh, my shoulder hurts. But nonetheless, she was like, I'm feeling better. And she had a happy face and a thumb up. And I was like, oh, cool. And I was like, I was just praying for you. But in that meditation, I was thinking about intuition, right? Because sometimes when we're in a place in our lives where we don't have like really strong signals to bring us from one place to the next, it means sometimes that it's time to be still. But sometimes we try to push past that because we're just like, a decision can be made. A decision needs to be made. I just want to make a decision. You know what I mean? Because sometimes I literally do. I just want to make a decision because it feels good. It feels like I'm doing something, right? Receiving and being still and waiting and being patient doesn't always feel like I'm doing something. It feels like that, oh, you're wasting time. But we know that's not true, right? So I was thinking about what intuition is not. Let's do that first, right? Intuition is not a strong emotional grab feeling. Whenever I see someone who is like crying, and I was watching a video last night and this girl was crying and screaming and saying, I just know somebody's out to get me and they want to, my intuition is getting stronger. And I'm just like, that's not intuition. That's paranoia. That's deep feelings. That's some type of trauma. I was like, that's not intuition, right? And it's not saying anything negative about anybody. Sometimes we just have the wrong labels on things, because I don't want people to get confused with intuition and think it's something that screams at you and that rocks your world and that usually, makes you jump off of a cliff or push you into the next, leap of faith. That's usually not it. Generally, when we're feeling like that, it's because intuition was trying to speak to us and it didn't, right? And so because we didn't let it speak to us, all these other crazy things sometimes happen in our lives that forces us to change things that we probably should have gotten in front of beforehand. Intuition also isn't like anger or revenge or hatred, right? Some people talk about intuition and it's like they talk about it as if it's something that carries out revenge or karma or things like that, right? And it does not. Intuition has nothing to do with that. It has nothing to do with anything you think somebody has done to you in the past and trying to use against you or something like that. And people are like, my intuition told me that, they were out to get me. My intuition told me. And that's not to say that intuition doesn't say things similar or subtly, right? But it's not yelling. It's not angry. It's not a bunch of fear at all, right? I think if you're steeped in fear and anger, which is anger and fear is like one and the same, I'll say this. Fear is a lot of things. Anger is definitely under the umbrella of fear, right? Because when you're angry about something, it's just a fear deep down inside that you can't get something to go your way, or it's not going your way, right? That you have no control. And that's the biggest thing. So it's like we sit there and we attribute things that are related to fear, that are related to paranoia, that are related to revenge. And we say, okay, that's my intuition. And while sometimes our intuition can tell us that certain things are on the horizon, that certain things are coming to us, that's not necessarily a scream, a punch, a yell, anger, jumping up and down, yelling, anything like that. That's not intuition. What intuition is, it's a subtle voice. And I didn't want to say the word strong because what's not intuition can be strong too, right? But it's not necessarily a quiet strong, You ever hear somebody say the term quiet storm? Or you hear someone say strong and silent? That's what you're talking about. I was watching a woman describe another lady on a channel I was watching on YouTube, and she was saying she was so strong yet so feminine. And I kind of think of intuition in that same way, right? It's something that is extremely strong. It's a strong, possessive energy that flows through you. But generally, it can only flow through you when you've been being still, when you've been quiet, and when you've allowed the space for that quiet voice to whisper to you, right? Intuition is a whisper. It's not weak. It's not sadness. It's not a lack of clarity at all, right? I think that when you have weakness and when you have a lack of clarity, that's definitely not in a place to bring in the intuition. Intuition shows up generally when we're like happy-go-lucky and we're not even thinking about the thing that we think we need to be solving, right? It also shows up when we sit down in meditation and we didn't really have a question on our mind, but we sat there and something said, oh yeah, go make a video on this. And we're like, okay, I guess I'm available. I can do that, right? It didn't have to yell at me. It didn't have to be angry. It didn't push me. It wasn't like, oh, this amazing, awful thing happened and I'm coming to you today with my intuition. No, that's a lesson learned. That's wisdom. It has its place too, right? But to be intuitive means that you are being quiet, you are being still, you are sitting there and putting yourself into receptive mode, whether it takes an hour, whether it takes days, whether it takes weeks. You're dedicated to the idea that I'm not making any decisions, I'm not moving on anything until I hear that small intuitive voice whisper to me, this is the right way to go. And along that journey, you'll find that many questions that you've been looking for an answer to, they'll start popping up to you, right? I remember, just yesterday, I was sitting there talking to someone, and she's a woman, I think she's amazing. She's, accomplished and all this stuff. And she was just telling me what she thought of me. And the whole time that I've been around her, I kind of felt like she could see me. But I wasn't sure because, I'm like, my intuition tells me she can see me. But, sometimes I've been wrong about things and I don't know what feelings are behind it. So my clarity is not always there. And I wasn't really focused on it. But she was just seeing me so clearly and telling me about who I was and what I was capable of and how, I should move or how I can move if I want to in my life and career. And I was just like, wow, right? And so that lets me know that I'm in a receptive mode. It lets me know that I'm receiving. There wasn't any accolades or anything I was asking for someone. Matter of fact, it was a chance crossing because I wasn't even supposed to be where I was at. I was just, jumping in real quick to sneak around and grab my bags. And then I happened to see her. But in that lovely encounter, I can clearly see that there's no major or push decisions that ever need to be made in your life, right? That sometimes the biggest thing that we can do is get into the receptive mode and be patient to where we're so still that we can hear the air. We can hear the whisper. We can hear the intuition floating through that little frequency that we can't see floating around us, right? We have access to it. When everything is going and everybody's moving and people are talking, you're getting this done, you're getting that done, you're doing that. That world and that voice is so cluttered that you can barely hear it, right? And sometimes it's okay to be in that space because intuition will tap you. And you're just like, yes, I need to go full force with that. And you start doing and being and moving and shaking. And the minute you get unsure again, that's the best time to say, let me be still. I was sure about those first 5 steps, but the next step, I'm not really sure. So I don't feel called to do anything. So I'm going to sit here and I'm going to let my intuition speak to me. And whether that's minutes, whether it's days, whether it's weeks, sometimes it can even be months, depending on the problem, right? Or depending on the issue that you're meditating on. But if you make decisions outside of those intuitive nudges, generally, you're barking up the wrong tree. You're just being busy and you're doing lateral things that really are not getting you anywhere. But rarely are you doing those things that have an upward mobility. It has an ability to bring you up because you're not really in that space, right? So to hear the real intuition, my advice is to be still, to be quiet, to even avoid conversations that are unnecessary, avoid people that are unnecessary, avoid situations that are unnecessary. Be as still and as quiet as you can possibly be. Be unapologetic about that. Be ready and be in a receptive mode and be ready and willing to listen. And when you sit there quietly and that voice speaks to you, there will be no misunderstanding about what needs to happen next, what you need to work on next, what you need to do next, or what you don't need to do, what you don't need to work on, or what you do need to put down, right? And I think until we get that level of clarity, sometimes we're often just barking up the wrong tree. We're just making moves to make moves. We're just pushing a square peg into a round hole, trying to create something, using the world of matter, as like Joe Dispenza always says, using matter to move things as opposed to using this metaphysical world that we have, so that things that we want to bring into our space and existence, they can shift themselves in a more natural and fluid way, as opposed to banging things upside the head and trying to force it and make it work, because we don't usually get what we want from those types of situations. I always say, when you want something too bad, it's not the cure. It's not the cure. Anyway, you all have a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful day. And I hope you all get out and get some sun today and enjoy.